Hey everybody, welcome to GeekStorm. I'm Sean Hilton, owner of Comics Q, founder of the Kokomo Con, and we have our biggest sale of the year coming up. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving is the tie-dye sale. Before all the color, love, and mirth is sucked out of your holidays, before the bird is fully cooked, we have a giant sale so that when the relatives come in from out of town, you've got something to go do. You come on down to downtown Kokomo and check out Geek Street, myself at Comics Cube, the wonderful and amazing Kokomo Toys and Collectibles. Right next to them is American Dream and Hi-Fi, and just opened up is Chapter 2 Books, a new used bookstore. And then around the corner you always have Jason Van Hecke's Kingdom Cards and Games. So there is something for everybody to do this Thanksgiving holiday. Come on down to Geek Street and check it out before the whole family rips each other apart over politics, religion, or the fact that
turkey was dry.
Turkey's dry.
Yeah.
That will just ruin the holiday left and right. So, with that said, we've been off the air for a couple weeks now. We take our yearly hiatus. That was it. And now we're back. Mike will be returning. Mike Harrison will be returning soon. Nick Gray, I think you'll be seeing him pop up. But today, me and Mike Dukes are holding things down. And we're going to keep it a little mellow this week before we really rip into some things. But some new television has started to pop up. It is that time of year. We're already a good 5 to 6 episodes, and honestly, we'll be nearing the point of hiatus on TV shows already for the holidays, probably within 3 more episodes would be my guess.
I think that's going to play into Disney's strengths.
Oh, that's a good idea. So today we're filming this November 7th, November 8th.
Yeah.
And Disney Plus will be opening up on
8th.
the 12th. So we got 4 days until Disney Plus is going to go live. I'm not sure whether that's going to be at midnight, sometime during the day.
I don't know.
I would imagine there's going to be some issues initially. It's Disney, you would think they'd be set, but let's face it, it's going to be like everybody connecting for the first time immediately. It's going to be crazy.
I mean, they did a testing in the Netherlands.
With all 50 people?
Just, to test the systems and whatnot.
That is not an insult to our Netherlands fans. We love you all 50 of you. But yeah, I think you got a good point there. And
then also, interestingly enough, it makes me wonder about the big picture. Bob Iger from Disney announced that, they'd already said that Star Wars was going to take a bit of a break movie-wise. Now he's officially said it's going to go on hiatus as far as the movies are concerned, because they had the 2 Game of Thrones creators back out.
Yep.
Back
out. Let go.
Yeah,
I've heard different things. The thing that I believe, because we've seen it before, if Disney gets you on board but doesn't like what you're going or what you're doing, they're going to hit the brakes. So the two showrunners for Game of Thrones were supposed to do their own trilogy, and now that's off. And the thing that I've heard that I believe is that they've signed up to do Netflix programming as an open-ended deal.
A huge deal with Netflix back in May or June.
Yeah. So how are you going to do a 3-movie trilogy of, 9-ish hours of new content for Disney to the level that Disney would expect, and then do unlimited type content for Netflix? Where's the division? Where's the loyalty, who gets which better project, who gets which idea. And then on top of all of that, the actual kind of fallout from the end of that last season of Game of Thrones, I would have to think through a bit of a cold blanket on a wet blanket on top of things.
I've heard Kathleen Kennedy was not happy because that exact concern. We had you for Star Wars, and now you're going to put many of your eggs, or most of your eggs, in the Netflix basket. How is that going to work? Also, my understanding is that their idea for a movie was they wanted to show the origin of the Jedi. And Disney, Lucasfilm, didn't want to necessarily touch that. And then the other thing, they came out in an interview a couple of weeks back, and they readily admitted they knew nothing when they started Game of Thrones. It was literally, they had no clue how to do any of it. And we're just learning along the way. Which, Game of Thrones went, 7 years, 8?
Didn't watch an episode. I've still not watched a single episode.
So that's a lot of learning time.
Yeah.
But that would also make sense of why you get to the end and you no longer have George R.R. Martin's material to pull from, and you're left to your own resources, why things might not go exactly as others would like.
Yeah. So they're out.
They're officially
Done.
out, but now Ryan Johnson has repeatedly claiming he thinks that his movie trilogy is still going forward. He doesn't really know.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I mean, I don't know what he's saying. I don't know what Disney's saying. Obviously, we're not invited to the meetings. But after the fan reaction to that second movie, if we're going on a hiatus, then I don't believe for a second that the guy who started the division that got the hiatus bandwagon rolling, and let's face it, it was that movie that did it. It was Ryan Johnson's movie.
I think Solo would have done much better at the box office if it had not followed The Last Jedi.
If Solo had come out if Solo had come out in December, and they had put out Star Wars in the summer, I think you would have saw Solo do gangbusters numbers, and we'd be talking about the Solo sequel right now instead of it being dead in the water, which crushes me because by far my favorite of all the new Star Wars films is Solo.
I love it. I'm still crossing my fingers that there'll be something on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Because I'm starting to wonder. It takes a lot of money to make a movie.
It does.
And you're stuck with about hour and a half to maybe 3 hours of time to tell a cohesive story. Mm-hmm. Netflix has proven if you can do a 6 or 8 or 10 episode series, you can tell the full story without having to cut any corners, and it's a better tale. Marvel has a buttload of shows coming out that are going to actually connect to the movies.
Through Disney, though.
Yeah.
Because I'm under the impression they've canceled everything else. I'm under the impression that Cloak and Dagger, done. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., winding up, done. Runaways, I believe, is doing one more season, and I believe it's done.
And then they
all
pulled
the Netflix stuff's done.
They pulled Ghost Rider before it even started.
Ghost Rider's done. There's still talk of Hellstrom. Mm-hmm. Damien, we'll see how that goes because I wouldn't be shocked at all if that doesn't get done. I think Feige's in charge now. He is now the head of I think Marvel Creative or something of that nature, which puts him directly over movies and comics, which is a little weird because I don't know that he has any knowledge of the comics.
I mean, he knows the characters.
Yes,
obviously.
That's very different than
yeah.
than the actual 616 comic universe. They're very different things, and it would be very short-sighted to lump in the movie stuff with the comic stuff in a direct manner. The thing being, there's slightly different origins from the movies, and if he was to go retcon it, make it so that everything matches, because they've done that a little bit with DC in the Arrowverse. They took Ollie's origins, and they're primarily the same, but now they're much more tweaked in what the Arrowverse has done on CW, which has a much wider audience. But Green Arrow's been around since the I want to say late 40s. So his longevity far outweighs that of a 7-season TV show, which, let's face it, as much as people love it, in a year or two, it will be mostly forgotten.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And within 10 years, it'll be nostalgia, and within 20 years, it'll be a footnote. That's just fact. And I love what they've done with it. I love what Amel's brought to it. That's no disrespect. That's just everything in general. The hottest TV show in the world, if you think about it. We'll go back to Lost. People still talk about Lost a little bit, but one, it's not, those things fade. And in another 10 years, Lost will be a footnote and a trivia pursuit question.
I mean, even Game of Thrones, at this point, it's kind of it's done.
Yeah, especially now and that's another one we're getting into, where those have been canned. There were supposed to be 2 different offshoots, I think, of
They
Game of
canned the
Thrones.
ones they'd already shot a pilot for, but then they approved the ones that hadn't done any work on yet.
So we'll see which ones are actually going to get made. There's a lot of upheaval going on right now in all kinds of different fields. And going into Disney Plus, I think, Mandalorian, they might put Star Wars on hold, but that Mandalorian is going full force ahead. That is what is backing up
Season
that
2
launch
is already
kind of thing.
filming, if I'm not
And
mistaken.
what was the budget? $10 million an episode or something like that? It was huge.
It was big.
That is crazy money, and I think hopefully it pays off on the screen. Everything we're seeing in the preview so far looks really, really good.
That's the thing, though. I mean, I'm loving it. Like you said, everything looks amazing. And I love Mandalorian, so I can't wait for this. But it seems as though, yes, Mandalorian is going to be awesome, but the Cassian Andor series almost got completely pulled because I guess the initial pilot script was horrible.
I didn't even ever heard about an Indoor series.
Cassian Andor.
Cassian
Yeah.
Andor. Yeah, they can pull that as far as I'm concerned.
They had to pull the director or the writer from Rogue One to come in and do complete rewrites and direct that
Really?
first episode because it was so bad.
See, that's just. And I know people love Rogue One. It doesn't touch on me at all. I've watched it a couple of times. I think they're all unlikable characters. We know how it ends. I thought Cassian was an unlikable character. His robot, 2K209 or whatever, is the only likable thing in that movie for me. So more of Alan Tudyk as a robot, all for it. The other guy, you know.
Well, my thing is, if you look at Star Wars not on the big screen, but on the small screen, Dave Filoni, Clone Wars, Rebels, that has what has kept things going, and it's been consistently very, very good. He and Jon Favreau are the minds behind Mandalorian. I think that's a big part of why Mandalorian looks so good, and all the reviews are saying it is so good. And then you depart and just give it someone else something. It's like their idea of Star Wars, I don't know, they want to put their own stamp on it, or
Sure.
it's bad.
I think, in my opinion, Dave Filoni is the spiritual successor of
George Lucas.
And respects the material, he respects the material, and the people that work with him seem to respect him and his vision. The only thing that he's ever done that hasn't appealed to me was the last season of Rebels, when all of a sudden there were Loth wolves everywhere. And I watched I kind of binge watched all of Rebels. The prequels diminished my love for the Star Wars universe. The 3 movies with Jar Jar and all that really hit me in a manner that I'm like, I don't need to watch that stuff anymore. Rebels and the Clone Wars brought it all back and furthered it even more, maybe than when I was a kid. If I was a kid and I had Clone Wars and Rebels stuff to play with, and those were action figures, that would be like the greatest thing ever for me. I would have loved that. But that last season with these Loth wolves, I'm just like, where did they come from? Like, I don't remember them being mentioned in 3 seasons at all. So if we can take Dave away from wolves, I think we're going to be set. As long as there's not some wolf Mandalorian, we're going to be okay. But if there turns out to be some lone wolf Mandalorian with actual pelts or something, then we could be in trouble. But I think he's got the love and respect of fans, I think staff, the creative minds, and then you go out and you find like some of these other directors in Game of Thrones and stuff, and you're like, you were very successful at doing something else, and now we want to reinterpret that into the Star Wars universe. It's kind of like when I see best-selling authors who've never done anything with comics be offered like a big gig in a comic book. It's like, yes, you wrote a bestseller and it's amazing, but how does that relate to your knowledge of comics and how to write a comic? It's very different than writing a novel.
It's kind of like J.J. Abrams and his son doing a Spider-Man comic. It just seems a little odd.
It is a little odd. It's selling very well, though. I will say that. I had some doubts, there were some reservations about it. It's definitely not a flavor that I've read both issues that have come out so far. I've not been blown away by it, but it's sold incredibly well, and my customers really like it. So, I'm out of touch on that one, and I'm one of the people that's willing to admit when I'm out of touch on something, and I give people advice and I tell them what I like all the time, and sometimes I'm like, you know what, this guy hates everything I like. So I'm just gonna be upfront with that person and say, hey, I really, really liked it. You traditionally don't dig what I dig. We have 2 different sets of tastes. You might want to miss this one. So some interesting stuff going on.
One more thing on that note. Kevin Feige was announced as doing his own Star Wars movie. So
was that real? Because I didn't believe that was real.
It was real.
I gotta admit, I thought that was internet.
Because then everyone started thinking, is he going to take over the Star Wars universe too?
Couldn't hurt.
Would he displace Kathleen Kennedy?
Well, I don't have the dishatred. I don't have the animosity towards Kathleen Kennedy that a lot of people seem to have. I put my fervor of what's wrong strongly on J.J. Abrams. I think people need to quit giving J.J. Abrams a pass. He's not doing anything with the franchise that's been any good. He's not done anything for the fans that have been any good. He took over Star Trek. Are we sitting here having big conversations about Star Trek? Honestly, I think any director could have done what he did with those movies. I don't think anything was done special with Star Trek. He comes over, people are so excited. Now he's going to do Star Wars. We get the first movie, and we were talking about this last night. I think you didn't get to attend because you were busy. We now want a Pink Floyd Wizard of Oz, the 2 Star Wars movies. We want to take A New Hope and have it play directly underneath, is it Force Awakens? And play them at the same time to see if, when the Millennium Falcon pops up in both scenes, if they don't pop up at almost the exact same time. Because it's the same damn movie. Okay, we've been saying it for a while, but people, come on. It's the same movie.
Very much the retelling of the same tale. And
then he doesn't come back to do the second one, which Rian Johnson gets all kinds of hate for what he did with it. But my point is what has J.J. Abrams done that has made you fans so loyal? What's he doing? Lost. If you've got a feeling for the end of that Lost thing, then, hey, more power to you. But I can tell you that I haven't talked to anybody yet that doesn't have an opinion. That's the only thing I will give Mr. Abrams is that the stuff he touches, people talk about. He's great about getting people to talk about it. But actual finishing these projects, I'm not impressed.
I really wish I could go back in time because I know how it was seeing the original trilogy as it came on at the theater.
As a kid.
Yeah.
I saw that through kids'
And then
eyes.
holding that as time has gone on, I rewatch them all the time. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And like you, I'm just, these new ones, the characters don't grab me. I'm just, nothing about it really excites me. So I'm curious if I was a kid seeing these for the first time, if these were my first Star Wars.
Towards you.
Yeah, because, you know, a 7 or 8 year old, this could be their introduction to Star Wars.
Sure.
Would it have a bigger grab for them than if, you know, watching the older ones or the prequels? Because the prequels were the same way. A lot of people hate on them, but a lot of kids grew up, that was their Star Wars.
Sure.
And that led right into the Clone Wars, which, like you said, was great. So
Love it.
we have, you know, multiple generations of Star Wars fans, but these new ones just, I'm crossing my fingers that this third movie is, you know, really great, going to tie things all together. I don't think it'll necessarily happen.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. That's the one thing I'm going to go see it.
And I'm also wondering, is that part of why they're going to go on a hiatus? Because they're kind of hedging their bets and thinking, this might not, you know, appeal to everyone. It might not do what everyone's hoping it's going to do. So maybe we should just step back and focus on TV for a while.
I would say with perfect 2020 hindsight, that the biggest mistake that they made with these 3 movies, these latest 3, was making them direct tie-ins to the original, to make this a 9-part series. Because if they had just come out and told a new Star Wars story and taken out the classic elements, maybe people hate it, maybe they love it, but by directly tying in Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and all the beloved characters, there's a much more emotional attachment to it that I think makes the game a little bit more serious for fans.
But it's been proven, though. Video games. Knights of the Old Republic was hugely popular. Took place thousands of years before A New Hope ever occurred. Rebels.
Nobody's really in it. There's a couple of guest stars here and there.
Yeah, that happens later on, but initially it's this all-new group of characters. Sure. People gravitated toward it. You don't have to have that nostalgia factor per se. It's Star Wars.
I think that by tying it in, that was a mistake.
And I also read that apparently the third movie, Carrie Fisher was supposed to be the last Skywalker. She was going to be a full-on Jedi with a lightsaber, and now they've cut her down to 8 minutes of footage. That's
rough. I mean, they should have talked about this last night too. They should have killed her. When she did the death swan dive, they probably should have taken her out. But even if you had to edit some last minute stuff, I mean, you give it a couple weeks because you don't have this actress now. You know, we know it's not a maybe. What we're going to have is either CG her, body doubles from a distance, or whatever leftover footage from all the different movies we can.
They're using all the leftover footage from Last Jedi. And
that's
Force
all
Awakens.
we're gonna have, and you know, to try and make that a major part of the movie, at that point, it's time for somebody to go stop, put on the brakes. I know we're done, But now here's the new reality. That was the old reality. This is our new reality. What are we going to do? And I don't think, man, that last movie's just a mess.
I mean,
Why isn't Astromech not take the big ship to do the thing? Why do we have to give up a great military mind to do that when there's literally things called astromechs who drive spaceships? That's your job. Hey, we can, and the thing, we don't even lose the droid. Hey, dump his whole memory right before we do this. Wipe everything but basic, astromech functions. Then program him to do this hyper jump thing into that ship. Then we don't lose the droid. We've got his personality, his memory, and everything else backed up somewhere else. We simply put him into a new chassis. He's ready to go. Instead, no, we'll give up one of the greatest military minds, according to them, to blow up a ship. I'm just like,
I did wonder about that. I was like, wait a minute. You're able to slave all the controls to that single control so you can make this ship, make its hyperspace micro jump into that first order fleet. Where are all those droids? Any number of which, all you gotta do is say, all right, at the right time, hit that button.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take this escape pod and get out of here.
if you could slave all those controls to that one button, really, that's really what it was like push the big. Why is it we couldn't just remote control that crap? Now I could see maybe somebody's like, oh, what if something went wrong? If something went wrong, was she gonna be able to fix it? She's not a technician. Again, another droid might have actually been able to, oh, just a second, I pop this up, we can fix it.
But that also brings into the whole point. The first order ships could have easily made 2 micro jumps in hyperspace. Boom, boom. Yeah. Suddenly they've got to
just triangulate.
Yeah, you got to, one first order here, and here's all your resistance. Dead.
It's such a mess.
I mean, instead you had the O.J. Simpson chasing space. It's
and the thing is the longer it goes on, just the worse it looks. There's nothing about it that ever gets better with that particular film. I mean, hey, you watch any TV? We've drowned that subject.
I've been watching old stuff. I've been watching Deep Space Nine.
Okay. I need to go back and try that again. You and Lauren speak raves about it. I've watched all of the first season, and honestly, I didn't like it.
It really does get a lot better.
Does it? So I need to rewatch. I need to force myself to rewatch the first season so I can remember storylines and then get into the further seasons.
Like right now, they're in the middle of the Dominion War, so it's pretty intense.
That's cool.
You got Klingons on the station, and it's pretty cool.
Watching Stumptown, which is a new show, I think, over on ABC with Colby Smulders, Maria Hill from the Avengers movies, based on a comic book, but the actual thing is not very comic-y. It's more of a private detective drama kind of a thing, and fairly dark drama, too. So if somebody that wants a little more meat, I think, on their thing, you have kind of your episode of the week procedural kind of a feel, but there's so much background stuff going on all the time that it feels like there's a little bit more to me to this one. I don't know how it's doing, but I've really, really enjoyed it quite a bit. That one's been a lot of fun. There's another show called Emergence, which is about a little girl who seems to be either robotic or industrial designed or man-made kind of things going on with her in a sci-fi action-adventure kind of a thing.
What channel is that on?
I'm going to guess ABC. I think most of the stuff on Hulu comes from ABC, it seems like. And there's a couple comedies that I've been enjoying. There's something called Bless This Mess with Dax Shepard, which has no comic-related material whatsoever. But Pam Grier co-stars in it with Ed Begley Jr. And
that sounds funny by itself.
It's kind of like Green Acres with hipsters. 2 New Yorkers. Dax Shepard is a musician critic. I think he's a music critic. And loses his job, and his aunt dies in whatever Midwest town is supposed to be in Nebraska, I think. And so they're like, hey, honey, you want to move to Nebraska? I just inherited a farm. So they get there, and it is the Addams Family farm kind of thing. It is falling apart. It's horrible. Nothing can grow there. The soil's dead. And, of course, you have this quirky little town and all that. So, but a lot of fun. I like Dax Shepard a lot, and I think it's a cute little thing. And then there's a Bradley Whitford comedy, which is basically Pitch Perfect goes to the South. Again, almost like that fish out of water thing. It's a New Englander kind of Yankee going south of the Mason-Dixon line, and he's this world-renowned choir coach person or conductor, and again, small little town in the South and just weird habits and how they interact. And it's both of them are very cute. Liked them quite a bit. So
I keep forgetting I have Hulu. I've got it. I forget I have it.
I highly recommend it. I've got to say.
And I never really think about new stuff. I'm always, if I am on there, I'm watching Orville or, old episodes of Family Guy. I never really think about newer stuff.
There's a cool function when Fall TV restarts called like New Fall TV. And I go to there and I'm like, all right, I will give the first episode of just about anything a try. So I'm like, all right, first episode, I don't think I'm going to like this. Let's go. Yep, I didn't like it. I'm not watching that again. Boom, I don't think I'm like, oh, that was kind of cool. All right, let's watch another one, and we'll keep it going for a while. So I've dug that. And then there's something called Prodigal Son, which stars Jesus from The Walking Dead. And
I've not seen him in anything but Walking Dead.
He's come over to this, and basically it's a Hannibal Lecter-style thing with rich parents. Daddy's a decorated, well-known doctor of some sort, and is also some maniac serial killer, but with big bucks and high dollars. The kid figures it out and eventually calls the cops on Dad, and then the fallout. 20 years later or whatever, he's now got all kinds of emotional problems, but is super smart and is a profiler, and gets called in to work with I think it's New York. So you're getting fallout with Dad still in prison, but now wanting to connect with the son. It's interesting. It's not my favorite because I feel no connection to like a single character. Like I can't relate to anybody. The biggest amount of happiness is the actress who played Lane in Gilmore Girls is their like forensic medical scientist person. And I'm like, oh, Lane's got a new job. That's awesome. Like, good for. Oh, I hope she didn't get a divorce. Hopefully she's still in the band. Maybe this is a side project. She went back to school. So that's how I look at some of these shows when I see favorite characters from old shows. I'm like, oh, well, they went back to school. They got a new profession. Good for them. They bettered themselves a little bit. So yeah, I enjoy that stuff.
I really don't watch that much TV.
I go through weird phases where I can go 5 to 10 years without watching like television for the most part. Do a lot of reading, a lot of gaming, stuff like that. But then every case, like right now, just kind of in that phase where now I'm watching a lot of TV, and it'll go away in a year or two. I'll just grow bored with it, and I'll keep a few things now because we do stuff like this, and there's so much geek-related material that was never existing before that it'll always draw me back in a little bit. I'm going to be too curious to just walk away. But like I hadn't watched a situation comedy in like 20 years. There was nothing. I didn't watch Friends. I missed the entire 90s. I didn't watch. I can't think of a single thing that I watched. And it wasn't until probably third or fourth season of Big Bang Theory, I started watching a little bit of that and then went and caught up on it. And
that's about how I was. Everyone kept telling me I should be watching Big Bang Theory because I would get all the references. And
it turns out they were right. I do get all the references. Sometimes I don't think they're that funny. Every people are laughing. I'm like, that's not funny. You don't understand the pain. It's hard.
I'm a stickler. So they're playing Dungeons and Dragons. And immediately I'm like, no, they're not. That's not at all how it works. Yeah. What?
They're playing an RPG, and that's awesome, but it's not D&D. So they're playing Gnomes and Trolls or something. I don't know. They're playing, that.
Which, speaking of, I know Lauren was wanting to talk about
Critical Role.
Critical Role.
Let's get into it. So for those who don't know, Critical Role is a Twitch-based podcast, basically, of a group of fairly well-known, if not outright famous, voice actors who play their tabletop D&D 5th edition game in front of cameras, and their GM runs a game, and it happens once a week. Occasionally there's an off week, and these sessions run about 4 hours, which a 4-hour game, if you've never played an RPG, is just about the perfect amount of time if you're not a youngster. Really old, 3 hours. Most people, about a 4-hour game is a really good thing, and if you're young, then it's play until you die.
All night long!
So, very popular. They started off on a channel called Geek and Sundry, which was a YouTube-based show. Mm-hmm. Did so well, they broke away from them in a mutually good fashion, no hard feelings, went off, funded their own thing, and have done incredibly well, have got a huge following, and are immensely popular.
Yes.
Okay, I believe that catches anybody up that doesn't know about Critical Role.
Critical Role has also been branching out. Dungeons and Dragons was already a known thing. If you tell people you're into role-playing games, they might look at you and go, like...
Once they figure out you're not talking about deviant, weird stuff in the bedroom...
Or like Final Fantasy.
Yes, or you're not playing on a console.
Time's up. Critical Role has brought it into living rooms everywhere. I mean, I'll be at the bookstore, I'll be listening at the D&D section, there's people over there and they're talking about Critical Role. That's what got them into it. That is why after watching this, they want to play. It's like someone watching basketball or football or soccer or something on TV, and then kind of, Thanksgiving, let's go out in the backyard and play some football. It's that kind of thing. It's become a spectator sport. But it's a spectator sport that is very easily done on your own in your own home. So D&D has boomed, but there are other games out there, and they know this, and they want to give those other games some love. So they've done some Call of Cthulhu, they've done some Vampire, they've done, most recently, they're doing Deadlands.
Which got delayed. Oh, holy cow, it got delayed.
Well, the thing that bugs me about these is both the Vampire and the Call of Cthulhu, the guy who was running the game...
Didn't do it right?
Didn't know the rules. I mean, it's very elaborate. Everyone is in costumes. They have thought out their characters. He's got all kinds of handouts. They've got backdrops that are amazing, and just the little rule stuff. And he's like, I can't remember how this. I can't.
It seems like there's a lot of production,
but not a lot of prep on their part. And so for the Deadlands stuff, it's really bugging me because it was said that they're going to be using the current Savage Worlds Adventure Edition rules.
The new rules.
But they're not.
Oh.
There were moments when I was like, okay, yeah, that's those rules. And then there are others I'm like, wait, that still no longer exists. That no longer exists.
Okay.
Or little rules things, like one of the players like, I want to use this chip to no longer be shaken. No, you can't do that. Yeah, you can. What? So as a guy who actually plays these games and knows these rules,
sure,
I make it a point. If I'm going to run for my friends, if I'm going to run for you guys, I want to know those rules. If I'm going to do it for thousands of people watching,
definitely want to know those rules.
I definitely want to know those rules. But that notwithstanding, Critical Role is just insanely popular. For every one of these games that they do play, Call of Cthulhu, their starter set sold out.
You did. I tried to get one.
They were backlogged. I guarantee that's going to be the downside.
I almost asked to borrow yours.
It's going to be the downside for Deadlands, the fact that the current version is the old rules. The new version will be kickstarted in 2020, so people are going to be able to get the new rules book for Savage Worlds, but then have to do some converting, and they're going to get confused, and I'm not sure how that's going to play out. But Critical Role, they have comic books based on their first season and those characters, which were insanely popular.
Vox Machina.
They recently had a Kickstarter to do an animated series.
7 episodes, I believe. It was what they were trying for.
And that got over $1 million.
I think they were asking for a hand,
It was a small amount.
Whatever. I think it got over 12 million.
It was a lot.
It was a lot more than they asked for, and because of it, they did all kinds of stretch goals and weird stuff, and people were going to get their full series. They're going to get exactly what it is that they were promised in this thing.
I mean, they've got so much merchandise, everything. I've got the Critical Role dice. The deck of cards that they're using in their Deadlands game, I bought that. So they've got all kinds of merchandise, got all kinds of stuff they're doing. And now, with this animated series, it was kind of up in the air. Where was it going to show? Would it just be like on YouTube? Would it be on Twitch? Amazon has picked it up and ordered a second season. So this has gone from tabletop game amongst friends to gangbusters, going to be on Amazon.
It's big business.
And there's a downside.
Oh.
People who watch this game, okay, Lauren's a good example.
Okay.
I distinctly remember, I had all the D&D books. Out of our little group, I was the only one wanting to play D&D.
It's true. I didn't want to play. And only reason I did show up to play was you were running something that I had nostalgic feelings for back from first edition. And I'm like, well, regardless of whether I like the system or not, I want to play that, and I think you're a really good GM. Those two things enough, or even if it was a bad system, I'm willing to suffer through that to do these other two things.
Because I had mentioned I wanted to run Ravenloft, and there's the Curse of Strahd.
And then I backed out. I'm like, nope, I'm out.
Big module for D&D.
I'm not a fan.
Lauren looked me in the eye and said, if you ever run Ravenloft, I want to play. Okay.
She's a huge fan.
Nick says, I'm a big Strahd fan. I got this.
He really is.
But because it was D&D 5th edition, when I said, hey, I'm going to do this, they kind of quietly just backed away. Now, after watching Critical Role and playing, she played one of my games, which, by the way, people have asked a couple of times, did they scare her off because she hasn't been back?
Oh, no, you don't scare her off like that.
I know. But she's had you ordering the books now,
Yes.
and she's talking about running her own game.
I think February.
This is the effect that this has, is it's gotten so many people wanting to play these games. And the downside is that people who have never played a role-playing game before are watching what's happening on this show, and they think that's how it has to be.
Yes.
So if their players aren't acting like the players on Critical Role, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
If they can't...
If your GM isn't like their
Yeah,
GM.
if you can't tell the tale like Matt Mercer does, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And then you've got the reverse side of people claiming that Matt Mercer's doing it wrong, and he should be doing it this way and that way. So it's like anything else, you've got people who love it, people who hate it.
It's one of those things where I think they've introduced it to a mass who's never been involved with it before, so this is their first taste of it. But whereas you and I have been playing, I think since about the exact same time, because I played with the older brother of the younger brother that you played with.
And I started in the 4th grade. I still remember a friend of mine coming over, came to my house, we walked outside, and he said, have you ever played D&D? And I was like, what? What is that? And then...
That was probably a little bit before even I played. I want to say I didn't start till 5th or 6th grade. But regardless, I mean, both been playing since I've been playing since 1st edition and the box sets. Mm-hmm. So I feel pretty good about it. And I have played with numerous GMs. I have run more games than I've ever played in. But I've also run with a lot of different game masters, and every single one has their own nuances. Some are better than others, some are god-awful, some are great, some have really good strengths here, but some weaknesses here. And Mercer, from what I can see, is pretty good. But he's also got the back of production. He's got the ability to make this kind of a full-time job, even though he's a well-known voice actor. I mean, they're filming this every week. This is a big deal to them. This makes them a lot of money.
Yes.
If all of a sudden I would say, hey, by the way, I just won $300 million. I want to talk to you about being my weekly GM. I'm going to pay you $100,000 a year plus benefits. Your job is to give me 4 hours of entertainment for me and my buddies every week. That's your job for this amount of money. I bet all of a sudden stuff's about to get pretty good. I'm going to get some good handouts. Oh, not only is that, but here's another like X amount of dollars for your budget to buy all the weird crap to make the game better. I'm like, yes, you know what your average GM has? He's lucky if the party ponies up the money to buy his portion of the pizza that day. If he doesn't have to provide $20 worth of soda that day. I mean,
they're getting their sponsor is D&D Beyond. So all of them, no one is using a physical book. They're all using tablets with D&D Beyond, with their character sheets, all the books, they've got it all. At a regular table, you're looking at physical books generally. Everyone's going to have to buy their own, or the game master is going to have a big stack because he's bought them all. That's part of the big thing. You mentioned on Deadwood, the Deadlands game being pushed back. They tried to really amp things up with this particular one. Instead of having the normal setup where you can see the GM and all the players on the same screen, they're doing multiple cameras.
Okay.
And they're doing all the editing after the fact. So that way they can see if this person's got a certain expression on their face, cut to that camera on that person. They've got miniatures set up and micro cameras that can go in and like ease in. Yeah.
So it's high production value.
High production value, which is why it has been.
Because traditionally it's a camera on Mercer, a camera on 3 guys, a camera on 3 or 4 guys on the bottom. Because I don't think I've ever seen them roll dice.
No, you see them do this. That's
Yeah, and I'm like, I won't lie. I'm like, for the production values that we're talking about, why is there not a dice cam? So I can, because that's a big element of these shows. So,
Well, like for the Deadlands game, normally the game master, when combat is initiated, it uses cards. So you're handing a card out to every person. The big table, they got, like I said, big miniature setup for a town. You can't really do that. So instead, he's laying them out, but post-production, they're putting them on the screen. So boom, boom, boom. You can see what each person has for their card, when they're going. So by doing things after the fact, because the thing about Critical Role, the normal D&D game, it's all done live.
yes,
Whereas this is
just done during Twitch.
Yes, and this is shot and edited, edited,
Gotcha.
post-production, the whole shebang, and which is why I think it got pushed back. They ran into some rendering issues or something.
You would know something about that.
Yeah, as soon as Marisha said it was going to be delayed, my first thought was rendering, something went wrong.
Been way off track this entire episode. But the point being is they got funded for a ton of money.
Yeah.
And now fans are ticked because it went to Amazon. And got a second season. Because Amazon's evil. Now this is the same guys that Wendy's did an RPG. Literally, Wendy's, the fast food restaurant, made an RPG. And they did a thing with it as a big surprise. It went up. It was hilarious. People seemed to really dig it. And then immediately backlash because Wendy's is an evil company. Well, it turns out Wendy's and Amazon and all these other people are helping to pay their bills. And at some point, you got to look at your business. You got to make some decisions. It turns out that if I've got to get an okay from every single one of my fans to do anything ever, we're never going to do anything ever. Because no one will give us 100% permission to work with any group. It will never happen. And the fact that people are upset that Amazon funded the second season and it's going to be on, nothing else is on Amazon, that's not true. I'm under the impression Twitch, which is where you've watched every single one of these episodes, is owned by Amazon.
Now, were they mad because I know, like, okay, with game Kickstarters, people will really get mad if game stores
get it first. And they should. They should get mad about that.
So is that the case here, where the Kickstarter people, then why are they?
Because they've come out and said, they're like, listen, this is what I saw, was they said, we don't know exactly how we're going to get it to you yet. But I don't think they'd ever said how it was going to be delivered to them anyway, just that we were going to make these and we're going to get them to you. So whether they end up getting some kind of DVD, that was never going to happen. They were going to get a digital code,
digital
of some
file,
sort.
yeah.
I would imagine what's going to happen is that everybody's going to get like a free month of Amazon Prime for their thing would be probably the best way to do it.
Because otherwise, if you gave out a digital file, that would be pirated like that. Yeah. So yeah, Amazon is going to more eyes.
It'd be genius for Amazon to just go, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to give every single backer one free month of the Amazon Netflixy thing, whatever they call
Prime?
it. Well, Prime is also your free shipping and all that crap. They're not going to give them that. But we'll give you one free month of our content, and you'll have access to that for a full month. That's more than enough time to watch 7 episodes of a 30-minute cartoon. And if you can't, and then I would even make
the downside is, though, if you Kickstarted this, you feel ownership. And if you only get a month's time to watch it, you don't own it.
I don't know. I mean, we'd have to say, I'd have to go look at the Kickstarter.
Yeah, I know.
Because I would have to think there was probably a physical media plateau where you got a Blu-ray or something of that nature. So I'm not sure. All right, well, we're way past time.
Yeah.
We're going to hit you up next week. We'll be a little more focused. We'll talk about some things you want to hear about. It'll be fun. But we've been talking about a lot of gaming recently. So you know what? If you want to hear more gaming content, if you want to see us do gaming content, I can tell you that the vast majority of us are all gamers and have been since we were children. We would have absolutely no problem doing some gaming content. So we would only ever do that, though, is if you let us know. So leave a comment. Let us know what you think about that, and we'll go from there.
I'm ready and willing to go.
Woohoo! Be groovy, everybody.